stage. So you've reached your destination, so have we finally. And we're going to start off just by a little sort of history about us. I think the most important thing that you can see is that we are value stream architects at BECU. We reside within the enterprise architecture organization, and we're a massive team right now of 2.
Yes, we're newly minted architects after 1 year of doing our thing. So we were at Flowtopia last year, just being kicked off as architects at that time. And so we're here to tell you about our mayhem and wins over the last year. Yeah. So a little bit about BECU first. We're a very humble organization. We started back in the Depression days, and basically back then at Boeing Corporation, if you wanted to work there, you had to buy your own tools. And since everybody was poor, a lot of people didn't have enough money to get their tools. So about 8 or 10 people, they got together, 18. They got together and they pooled their money, and they created the first co-op for Boeing. And basically, it's a nonprofit organization, or not-for-profit, and their very first loan was $2.50, which got somebody his tools so he could work on airplanes. After that, of course, things went crazy, and people were able to get a boat for $60. The very first boat loan Glenn got, you can see him having a lot of fun there. And then time passed, and as Boeing Employee Credit Union got bigger and bigger, we opened our doors to everyone in Washington State and a few smaller areas outside of Washington State. And then time passed a little bit more, and now we have 1.4 million members, and we have 2,500 employees, and we manage a lot of money. So that's where we're at right now. So why do we exist? This is something we were talking, some of the other folks were talking about culture, and we have a really strong culture at BECU. And so why we exist, we are this cooperative. We don't have stockholders. We return our profits to our members through lower rates, that kind of stuff. So and our whole deal is to improve the financial well-being of our members and their communities. So and that's helping people. We show some of our target audiences here, some of our target segments, and it's the underserved segment. You've got your stable folks and people just getting more money into their pockets, and small businesses is what we're focusing on right now. So, in any case, that's where we're coming from. We're all about helping people through their financial journey.
So to provide a little context on our experiences and our approach with mapping, we wanted to give you some organizational view of what we've been going through in the past 18 plus months. It's been a lot of change, and a lot of this has been driven through leadership change. Let's see here, roughly 18 months ago, we got a new CTO, and the CTO helped drive the strategy towards digital transformation. And with that, I feel very sad saying the whirlwind when we talk about strategy, governance, and structure, but it has been a lot of a whirlwind for a lot of people. The digital transformation was, or is, back in that time, focused on greenfield or brownfield, trying to go to a future state, and it did divide some of our teams a little bit, because if you weren't working on greenfield, were you brownfield? Do I have a job, in a couple of years? The governance was still structured around annual planning, and we had a lot of structural changes going on in, how are we going to operate now? What's our operating model? We need to go from project to product. So we had product-oriented teams that were starting to be spun up. And then we really focus on trying to have capability alignment and ownership. And what does that look like across our organization? Reorganization. So we lost some friends, especially in technology, to begin with. We also had consultants come on board to help this digital transformation. And now we're standing right here, right now. And we are now with a new CTO. Leadership changes are again happening. I think we have about 11 EVPs, and at least 5 more will turn over by the end of this year. So with that, the strategy has also changed of saying, well, we're not going to do this big T transformation because we're not really ready for it. We should be doing little T transformation and build it into how we approach different initiatives. Going from annual planning to one business backlog and list of things to do, and really focusing on serving those segments, which Doug had pointed out, doing what we do best for our members. And then the operating model is currently being revised again. So it sounds weird to say we're going from project to product to project? Question mark. But to be fair, those conversations are going to be happening through the end of this year. Targeting capability alignment to banking industry architectural network, so buy-in. So where we started off with a consultancy working with us to help define capabilities, we're taking a step back because ultimately the banking industry does have this network that we can plug into that already has capabilities defined. They don't really have value streams, but they do have scenarios, and they do have a little bit of an opportunity for us to help build some of the business architecture or value stream architecture in our organization. So let's see here. I already talked about the other changes with reorgs. I mean, I think we're now on to our 4th to 5th since we started. And we're seeing those consultants roll off that I talked about, helping us frame up the capabilities, roughly 18 to 24 months ago. So that's where you come to find Doug and Taryn in Value Stream Architecture at BECU.
Yeah, we started with 5, and now we have 2 Value Stream architects.
Slide, please. Yes.
Yeah.
So here we are. We'll talk about just roughly over the last year. So we got created architecture, Value Stream Architecture in August of 2022. September, we had a new VP come in, so a new leadership change for us. October, Flowtopia. In November, we went from a team of 5 to 2. And since then, this past year, we've been working in both business and technology areas, trying to do some value stream mapping. And also, I guess one thing to note is that the area that we're focusing in on, as well as value stream architecture, is trying to document this business architecture reference model. I know Helen had mentioned this value stream management piece is really challenging to try and describe to people, and it might not be, easily understandable. But what we do see, at least within enterprise architecture, is that a lot of people, and the business, a lot of people understand business architecture. So we'll be back next year and let you know how that goes, or connect with us on LinkedIn. But we anticipate that there will be some changes too moving forward. So with that, last thing. So we got a street copy of the state of the VSNC this year, and we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the mayhem that we experienced and how we got through it, and then also hear from other people across the seminar here to try and figure out, what could we take away from your knowledge banks to improve our experiences moving forward. with that.
Yeah, so don't be shy. So if you have something to say to add to the conversation, please do.
Yeah. All right, Doug, my friend.
Okay. Yeah, so we started by supporting the technical foundation platform, which those folks are all about the development value stream, but that was that greenfield that we were talking about, where they're trying to make things self-service for development teams. And so what we did is we found that the team we were supporting had multiple development teams that were all focusing on their area. So they were focusing on, for instance, CI/CD or APIs or data, or we had some that were all about IAM. So all of these different areas, and they were focusing on their own piece of it, but they weren't seeing necessarily the larger picture of their value stream that they're trying to support. So what we tried to do with them is figure out, well, what are you doing? What are you trying to do today? What's your as is? And so we helped map that with them, and then we helped to identify some kind of an ideal state. So there would be an ideal state if we could get to it on what these folks were doing. So currently they have different manual pieces involved, et cetera. So we had in the ideal, it was looking great, and so then what we did is we identified the gaps between the as is and the ideal, and we worked with them to identify a now, next, later sort of a roadmap on what they could do to move towards that ideal state. And that's where, I mean, we ran into plenty of mayhem that Taryn's going to discuss a little bit about. And we had some wins, too.
Yeah. So we went through about 3 iterations, 3 quarters with the technology platform teams. And essentially, we started off great with the leadership piece of it. We had a leader supporting us, actively engaged. We got through some of these mapping exercises, and the leader had to go to other meetings. And so when we were with these peers of ours, they were sort of allowed to run free and go a little crazy. So having that leadership buy-in to try and help support the vision really could have helped the direction where we're off to. There was also some leadership alignment problems that were occurring. So one leader, when he looked at the now, next, later roadmap proposal, ultimately it ties down to ensuring follow-up because he already had a roadmap and it was based on cool technology, not business outcomes. So he didn't necessarily want to hear anything that we had to say, so or his team had to say as well. So we had some challenges in that area. Also, the biggest problem was that we don't have time to do this. It was really a hobby for a lot of these team members to come in to participate. They could only devote a very small amount of time, and we had to follow up with certain resources to just on one-on-one to try and glue everything together. And I think they heard, well, cool, you're a value stream architect, this is your job, why don't you prepare all this stuff and do all this stuff for us? So do my homework and tell me what I need to do, right? And yeah, let's see here. While that sounds all horrible, the wins that we took away were in the survey space. So doing retros and surveying really helped us have that conversation with leadership and then change our direction in our mapping experiments moving forward. So surveys, great. The approach that we did take that hasn't really shifted too much going into sort of the business value stream area has been looking again at the VSMC roadmap, implementation roadmap, as well as taking a little treat from our friend Steve in flow engineering. So the wins there was the outcome mapping was very helpful in aligning most people, yes, to at the very beginning.
Yeah,
And
it was good to see them like get what it is what they're trying to get out of what they're doing, because so many of them were focused on technology details, like cool stuff they want to do, and to actually see the outcome part was pretty huge.
Yeah, it didn't turn into I want to implement a tool, right? You need to try and understand where you're going. Some of the tricky areas that we got into were down in the sort of process mapping, the detailed process mapping of how does it currently work today, because team members were ultimately trying to not think about today, just implement a tool, and this is how it should work tomorrow. But you can't understand the value areas that you need to focus on without understanding how they are working and who is within that process area. So it can help define the value stages a little bit better as you move through the value stream. And we found some capability gaps when we walked through outcome mapping, value stage definition, looking at the process areas that really suffered, and then asking ourselves, well, what do we actually need to focus on that might not be in our defined map of capabilities, and who can we talk to about that problem? And who owns it? That's another piece of it. Yeah, and repeatability, I think for us, repeatability, we knew that we'd get there. At some point in time, we knew that we could get to some form of repeatability, but ultimately it was experimenting, and that's where our next approach and example sort of trends to. So Doug, I'll let you talk to the approach.
So we mentioned that we got a new CEO. The new CEO showed up and saw that there were about 8 or so big giant backlogs that were being championed by various executive vice presidents. All this work that they all wanted to do on their own between them. And so she immediately said, well, I want this all to be turned into one backlog. I want it to be one backlog, and I want a new governance put in place on that backlog. So basically that allowed us to have a place to pin ourselves within that brand new program management value stream. So they're basically saying we have an intake process, we have a discovery process, execution, and then value realization. And we were able to insert ourselves over on somewhat over on the left, where we'd like to be further to the left, but so after they've done their ideation, they have this big pile of projects they know they want to do, and they've prioritized them based on something. It's a little tricky to understand the exact prioritization methodology they're using, but then they say, we're launching this for discovery, and when they do that, we are able to insert ourselves there at that point where these project teams are looking at, well, here's a project, we don't know much, we haven't really fleshed it out yet. And so what we're doing is we took some material from the business architecture body of knowledge, and then we tweaked it. So we took some of the information that you get from there. We added in a few some items, for instance, the idea of capabilities that are related to each of these stages. If you look at, this is just one row of it, but a value stream would have multiple rows. And in this example, we're talking about settled payment, because it was because of a real project. This is kind of interesting because one of the other teams were talking about how they start all the way to the right, where they've run into an incident or something. Well, we're starting kind of to the right because there's already somebody trying to do a project, and they don't know what value stream it impacts necessarily, or the capability owners that they're going to hit throughout that value stream. And so what we're able to do is hit it further to the left. So in this case, it was a project to allow allow a member, to do a transfer from an external organization to pay their pay their maybe a loan. And today they have to create a checking account, transfer it to the checking account, and then transfer it from the checking account into paying their loan rather than going straight to a payment. And so it's a real problem that they need to fix. But they didn't really they didn't understand where it fit within their value stream. So that gave us the chance to identify, okay, we'll use a value stream. We took some sample value streams from, the BizBoc has some sample value streams, so we took one from there. And basically we said, let's use this and drill into it and understand, like, okay, for each stage of the value stream, what are the entrance criteria, exit criteria, and what item of value do you get from that piece of the stage of the value stream? And so when you get through the whole value stream, you've got this pile of value items that the people who are going to be launching this project understand. They're better at understanding the outcomes that they're supposed to be getting from this. So there's an as-is and a to-be. So anyhow, this seems to be working better for us than our previous effort.
It's also in combination of, I realize it's an Excel and sometimes can be a kind of an eye chart. Cool, Doug. Yeah. But what it has helped sort of make visible is we can then settle value stages underneath the value stream, and we can walk through the value items and then also align the capabilities across these stages.
And one of the things that we've done is, since the organization is aligning themselves to capabilities, so they have capability owners, then if you go across one of these value streams, it's much easier to say, well, what should the value stream team consist of? If we're going to engage people to make a project happen within that value stream, the underlying capability owners should be involved. And so we can create a value stream team, and then we can name one of them as the value stream owner, whichever one has the most skin in the game for that particular project they might be working. So that's helpful also, because it's allowing these people, as they're putting these projects together, to understand who they should even be interacting with.
And I think, to be fair, they have this concept, though, of who they should be interacting with. It's are we missing somebody? Right. Are we missing another stakeholder?
They do miss stakeholders.
Yeah. And so that's what we found too, is through this type of activity, it was easier to do quickly with a smaller team to the left. The mayhem, I think, that we're feeling is all sort of aligned to all of those organizational changes that we are encountering. It's still new, right? The prioritization process for these initiatives, it's not too visible across BECU yet. I know that they're working on it, but because it's not visible, then people are asking questions. Well, what's the most valuable thing to work on? How did you get to that prioritization? And when we try to go and make it happen, then something's already predetermined for us. It's a value, we need to work on it, right? But with making it happen, each time now we're going through it, we have to bring people up to speed on sort of the approach. We're still experimenting, help us grow. And it's the challenges, it feels like an old school project management, waterfallish type approach, because it's not, the example that you saw there with external ECH was just one small example that this effort wanted to implement. They also wanted to do internal. They wanted to do consumer loans. They wanted to do small business. They wanted to do credit cards. And so when you're thinking about the complexity, it makes it so mammoth and people get scared, right? And so we're hoping that through being inserted in that governance process towards the left, architecture will have a hand in raising a little flag of saying,
too complex.
We're worried. Let's try and change this. How can we help document? How can we help connect and make the business successful? Because that's what we all want. Let's see here, repeatability. So we've had a decent poll for the approach, being asked by other architects or from the business side of like, this looks great. Give us your artifacts. Can we use them? And yes, that's great. But then you have other people saying, well, how are you going to toolize this? What technology are you going to put this in? Do we need to put it in iServer? Do we need to put it someplace else? So we need to find that out, and we're working on that in the repeatability area, if I can talk here. So yeah, making it happen, it's been easier. We pointed out the fact that we've figured out some capability ownership areas that need to be either brought into initiative, a project, if you will, or if there are some dependencies that were missed. And then I don't know, Doug, is there anything else? I mentioned that poll. We're getting requests for more engagement, which is awesome. So yeah, I think that wraps it up. So yeah, the takeaways before we get into our session with Terry. Yes, dare greatly, people, because mayhem is everywhere. So I think it really comes down to, if you're in the arena, you're doing the work, you're trying your hardest to make things better through whatever process mapping or value stream mapping that you're trying to do. Yeah.
We rely a lot on our corporate culture too, because everyone knows that we're in this for the same reason, and so you can have some pretty productive sessions with folks just because of that. So it's nice.